What's up, Rockstars? How's it going? Today I have a very important video for you. I'm going to be diving deep into some recent controversy. I'm going to be talking about my opinion and my stance on things. I'm going to be explaining things in a lot more detail because I feel like just some hot takes maybe isn't enough, and I really want to get to the root of the problems that I see in various different circumstances. And I don't think they match a lot of what all of the fuss is about, but that's because, again, I'm focused on like the root of the issue and perhaps not necessarily the current example of that issue. So I'm talking about a few different things now, so I just want to dive right in because seriously, this video is all about this, and so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, as always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their support that I'm able to make videos just like this, where I can critique the industry and not rely on the industry for funding, so that whenever I back a game, and you guys are going to see this in my later video where I talk about everything that I'm backing, and I show you guys that I actually do back this stuff that comes directly from the patron funds. That's because these guys don't give me any money. No game developer gives me money. Instead, I speak freely because of my patron support. And so if you appreciate that honesty, there is a link down below. I do greatly appreciate it. It is the core of this channel. Now, with that out of the way, I also want to do a blanket statement to just say that, first of all, no offense needed. Do not feel like you need to defend a company against me. The company is the company. It is an organization, not a person. And I'm not attacking any people here. Instead, I'm just talking about product and companies. And I feel like that's fair to do in any kind of industry, so that's what I'll be doing. And again, just like, I love debate, I love discussion. You guys see me in the comments all the time. I spend hours down in there talking things through with you because at the end of the day, that's what this is us consumers discussing what we want in an industry, what we like, what we don't like, the actions we like, the actions we don't like. And that in turn creates a great industry for everybody. And so that's really what I'm looking forward to doing here. So just want to make that clear. Like, seriously, guys, I love all of you. You guys are all rock stars. I mean that when I say that. I have the best community ever. Whether or not we agree on something or not, that's fine. That's okay. That's petty. I don't care about that. I don't care about who you voted for either. I don't like, it's fine. I like you. You're awesome, so don't worry about that. Additionally, no boxes. I now sold my couch. You guys, you old guard members might remember some videos on a couch. That couch is gone, and a nice 16 cube shelf is here now full of games. Actually, there's some empty shelves still, and I'll probably still need to add another 4x2 on top of that, go all the way up to my ceiling. Kind of like this one actually goes up higher, you just don't see it. So anyway, solved that problem. You guys just help you let me know. I'm real, guys. I'm just like you, okay? Sometimes games pile up in front, sometimes they're not unboxed, sometimes they're not unwrapped. It happens, okay? I do try. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Now, I'm going to start by talking about Stellaris, but I'm going to start talking about Stellaris by talking about the Everrain. Or more aptly called by many of its fans, the Neverrain. Now, this is actually, I went to actually I was excited about the Everrain. I saw the miniatures, I saw the theme, and it just looked freaking awesome. They showed that giant freaking dude with like the ships on the bottom, and then like these nasty guys coming out onto your ship and stuff like that. The concept was stellar. The miniature design was awesome. The art design was cool. And then, so I went to do a detail video, and back then I did a script, right? And the shorter videos, but less personality. Maybe that was a good thing, I don't know, on both counts. I went to do a script on it, and there I did two different parts. I did the game details and the campaign details, starting with the game details. And so, it launched, and it was day one, and I was looking, and I was scrolling through, and I was seeing everything, and I had 3 bullet points for game details. 3. I then started to do the campaign details, and like, oh, it'll just be a short one. And then I thought, you know what? No, screw it. If you're not going to tell me what the game is, then I'm not going to cover your game, because it's not a game, it's a campaign. And that's why I have that hashtag make games, not campaigns. I want people, game developers, to make a game, and the campaign is used to show off that game to a broader audience and fund that game into creation. And a lot of times, game companies make campaigns, and then through obligatory needs make a game afterwards, right? So they're making the campaign instead, and that's really what they're focused on. And they're expertly crafted campaigns. They're great campaigns, but there's no actual game there, right? Like, I mean, there will be eventually, and it might be good, but the company is focused on making campaigns, games being an afterthought. And I want the game to be the center of everything of all eternity for your focus here. And then the campaign is just there to get that game to people's hands. So that's kind of my whole make games, not campaigns thing. And then, of course, actually developing the games and delivering the games before spamming a whole bunch of other campaigns. Because, again, that's what you're doing is making campaigns and eventually maybe a game sometime just because you have to. And I've seen that before. I've seen developers, like I've asked for an FAQ before from a developer and they moaned and groaned at me. Like, it would take so, you know how long that'll take? I don't care how long it'll take. It'll take less time than he did to make, you know, that fancy stretch goal image and make sure that all the components there and get the quotes there so you know what the good price is. I guarantee they spent more money on that. But that's because that could get the money, not make their game better. To make their game better, they would need an FAQ, which takes some effort. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time. Not that much. They were going like my teenager son, who's 14, time I ask him to do something. And the attitude should be, I am making a game, and I love making this game, and I want to share this with you. That's kind of the goal. So the Everrain did not have hardly any game information, no rule book. Nobody even knew how the game really ended or how it played or the phases or anything like that. There was almost no gameplay information day one when this launched. And so I made an update instead of a details video showing them and sending a whole bunch of people via a link below to go back their game, you know, because it looked cool and I thought it looked cool and I thought it looked awesome and what I read about the game was cool. I complained to them. In fact, I called the developer lazy. I think it's quite lazy just to kind of rest on your laurels after you have a successful campaign and some followers. Just like, just throw up whatever. They'll back it. Doesn't matter. They're not worth it to me. They don't care. Right? That's insulting to me. That's insulting to my time. That's insulting to my money. Right? You should think, I want that. I want King of Average's money. Right? I want Michael's money. And that's because I also want him to have a great game and a game that he'll love. And I want to just combine game with happy backers and do that whole thing. And so, just throw some images on there. Paint some pretty miniatures. They like miniatures. They'll buy miniatures. Go ahead and do that. And, I'm not buying it. When I go to a Kickstarter, I'm not looking for a way to pay you. I'm looking for why I should pay you. And it's not my job to go hunt for why I should pay you. It's your job to tell me. It's your job to sell me, not my job to sell me on your product, right? That's backwards. It's not the consumer's job to sell themselves on something. It's the company's job to sell us on it. Tell us how awesome it is. And they failed to do that. So they just showed pretty images of miniatures, a little bit of art, and then tried to back it. And so I complained, and did all that whole thing. Now, I would just like to point out that this was supposed to deliver in October 2019. That's right, it's over a year delayed. And the latest update is talking about how they're retrying to do the rulebook again, because the rulebook is still not done. It's a year delayed, and they aren't even done with writing the rulebook. Now, I hate to say I told you so, but I did tell you. Day one on this, if you were a subscriber back then and you saw my video, I told you way back then that this was the case. What they do is they make a campaign and they make a game afterwards, right? Okay, yeah, I guess now that we have all this money, we better make a game to deliver to them. And so it gets delayed and it's a bad experience and they take forever to do that. And there was no... How do you do blind playtesting without a rulebook? You can't, right? If the designer's there explaining it, it's not a blind... a blind test. If you're not even to where you haven't played it with anybody but your friends and family that you've explained it to by hand, how do you even stay organized without writing something down? Like, I don't know about you, but it's like, what is it? Oh, that does that. Like, write it down. Write some bullet points down. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I have jotted down an idea every now and then, so I actually, it seems I have more of a rule book for a game than some other people just because I have random ideas. Like, it'd be cool if there was a game that did this and did that. And part of that's just me, creating, and part of that's just me trying to figure out what I want or what I like, what I desire. Anyway, I think it's quite telling that after over a year delay, almost a year and a half delay, they are still not done with the rule book of the game that they launched, because they didn't launch a game, they launched a campaign and the game came afterwards. So that's the precedent, right? That's what we see all the time. This is kind of the frame of reference I'm coming into Stellaris with, is I have seen bad experiences. I've seen the joke of the never rain. I've seen companies just throw up images to sell it and then make the game afterwards because they don't care. They don't care about you. All they care about is your money and what you can do for them, right? And so it's not worth it. Well, just pay us, please. Well, I guess we'll make some at the end. So that's precedent, okay? Let's talk about Stellaris, right? By the way, 2 million, so congrats to Academy Games for making 2 million with no gameplay. Actually, I think they made it about 1.5 million before they actually started. I think they showed little snippets of gameplay after a while. I don't spend a lot of time in here. The only update here is these 2 images. Beyond these 2 images, they still have not added anything here. And what I mean by not adding anything is some of the comments were stuff like this. I asked twice on YouTube about gameplay but was ignored. Is it an action programming game? Is it a card game? Is it a race? How do you fight? Nothing. The people who were pledging money don't even know what kind of game it is. Is it card driven? Is it programming? Is it a race? Like, where are you going to? What is the end state? Another question. It was by I looked through all the comments to try and find it again, and I couldn't because there are a lot of like canceled backers, which should tell you something. And it must have been somebody who ended up canceling. So I didn't click on every single one of those to see what it is. But someone was just like, how does the game end? How do I win? Because nobody even knew how they win. There was no game here. It was just Stellaris images and that. Now, that reminds me a whole lot of the Neverrain. I'm going to call it for the Neverrain from now on. How about that? Reminded me a lot of the Neverrain by Grimlord Games. It was Grimlord Games had a kind of successful game in the past, and a lot of backers really enjoyed their game. So they thought, screw it. We'll just put on some images. Here's some pretty minis. Here's some artwork. Here's a high-level marketing spiel about it, and but no actual gameplay mechanics or anything like that. No rule book, no video, no nothing. Just here's some stuff. Back us, please. It's the same thing, right? It's a company, right? I mean, that's really what Academy Games is. They're a company that had some success before and some backers, and they're like, you know what? Just throw up some images, and maybe they'll give us money for it, right? That's what we had day one. Okay, so that's obviously unfortunate. And before I move on from this, I would just like to point out that any company that asks me to give them money and refuses to tell me what the product is no bueno. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that for any consumer. I care a lot about what happens to consumers. It's what my channel is pretty much focused on. I do reviews and I do stuff like that to show you guys that so you guys can be better consumers, because better consumers are more informed consumers, and more informed consumers have information. So when a company purposely withholds it, that's kind of bothersome to me and kind of sketch. And the purposely withholding is true because here I'm watching them play the game and it looks like a cool game. This looks cool. This looks awesome. I even commented. Look at that. It looks quite nice. And I said, pro tip, you should probably show a game if you were trying to sell it. This looks cool. It really does. I dig it. I mean, it's not really my type of game, you know that, but like this looks like a legit game, and they have all these cards and these boards, and like this is the exploit board they have, and I guess they're doing different things here. They're talking about different mechanics and how you can explore, and then you might like a land type thing, and they have all of this gameplay stuff, and then they just can't be bothered to write it down in a rule book, in a text document, and hear anything. Okay, so it looks like a cool game. It really does. But what you did here is crap. It's bull crap. Because you asked consumers for money and didn't give it to them. In fact, you purposely tell them, look, even this here, information not in the form of YouTube videos would be nice. In other words, instead of linking to something where only 2,300 people view it, when you have 12,000 backers, that's a tiny percentage of people that actually even know how to do this because they didn't go follow the link. This is where you're asking for money, and where you ask for money is where the information needs to be. It can't be hidden under a rock. It can't be at a postal address people have to drive down to see the game in person. It can't be in a YouTube video you might link in one of an update somewhere that people may or may not see. It has to be where you're asking for money, where I can click back this project and give my bank information away. That's where it needs to be. That's where it is. Not anything else here. Over there is fine. I fully support adding YouTube videos. I fully support live streams. I fully support having a website with an interactable, non-crap UI like Kickstarter has, where it's just this long scroll wheel. Have it to where I can go to races, and I click on races, and it pops up all this cool stuff, and I have a sweet website. I love it. That's fine. That's all meta. But it doesn't matter if you have nothing here. So this is where people were launched. This is where people are backing it. This is not where people are looking. This is where hardly nobody is looking. And so all of this effort that you're spending here, where you spend 57 minutes from 4 people, is almost pretty much wasted. So have those 4 people spend 57 minutes to write down some rules and post them here. Write down some game mechanics. What makes your game so awesome? You have some really freaking cool stuff here. Explain it. Tell me why it's awesome. Don't waste time doing this junk. I mean, you can. This is a good auxiliary. It's a good addition to the campaign. But this is not the campaign. This is the campaign. And this campaign has this much info and then nothing else. So, yeah, there's definitely that. Okay. Moving on. I just wanted to show here, by the way, I'll get to this whole $60 thing in a moment here, but no hint of how the game actually plays. Again, this was 2 days ago. Very slow dev communication, a little love for miniature design, just kind of a lack of care. And they're saying, hey, maybe you can spend that $1.5 million to hire, just pay your buddy, $300 real quick to go like completely deck out. I don't care what it is. Just find a way to get some information on here. Don't be so inept. Because if you can't handle organization enough to write down rule books and deliver a pitch of a game and its mechanics to people, then I do, as a consumer, regardless of what you've done in the past, question your ability to organize and write down and make a board game. Making board games is complex. Ask any developer and they'll tell you. Ask Leo, right? Ask the guys at Dragori Games. Ask the guys at Monolith. Ask anybody that has made a board game. It is not easy. It's hard. It's difficult. There's a lot involved. There's a lot of logistics involved. There's a lot of documentation involved. There's a lot of everything involved. It's very important that you have an organized person, an organized mindset that can put all of these things together and line them all up to make something in a foreign country and then ship it thousands of miles to thousands of people and it have thousands of components inside of it that all act accordingly. How am I supposed to believe that you can do that when you can't even write rules down? How is that? Okay, moving on. Okay, so we have that. Here we have a person, this is actually from a patron of mine, he's awesome, so give him kudos here, who was trying to help other consumers by taking just a quick moment to add some notes from the live stream because, again, they're like, oh my gosh, people want information. Well, I guess I'll just talk in a camera. No, write it down. And again, this is weird. It's like boxes over 3,000 event cards, but then that doesn't match your actual list of cards here. And in fact, I added every single time a card is mentioned. If it said card, I wrote it down, and at most I got to about 1,200 cards. So I don't know where the 3,000's coming from, and maybe he was mistaken. I'm not sure. Maybe they misspoke on accident and doubled the number. Don't know. But stuff like that's where the miniatures made of ABS. How can you know that you're going to make the miniatures ABS when you don't even have final renders of anything? This is just stand-in, and they're all going to be different. How can you get an estimate for that from a company, a manufacturer? And I'm assuming you have some kind of estimate of what it'll be because you're charging people money for these already, not later when you have a correct estimate. What if it costs too much to make these in ABS? I mean, we don't know the scale of them, right? What are these tiny? Are these big? I don't know. Maybe they're this big. Maybe they're this big. Beats me. There's no information here. It just, when it's that, again, this kind of stuff worries me when I see companies like, oh, we'll have ABS. And it's like, you don't have your renders done. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like you have, how many pieces are these are these all going to be one piece? Is it like, I question stuff like this. It makes me worried when I see, numbers that don't match. 3,000 cards, and I counted every single card here. It doesn't add up to 3,000. So I don't know what you're talking about there. Anyway, but it did not take him long to put this together. He had to watch it and make it while he does it, and then it helped people. Take an hour out of your day. If you don't want to do it all at the time, just take an hour a day and just write down some more information. Okay? And then afterwards, have your contractor or your graphic artist or your artist buddy or whatever make some of the images. You know, the fancy images of the stuff you want us to back, right? When you have all these boxes that you're trying to sell us, like these. Have whoever did this to put the money on there, have them just make a few things. And I know you guys have it because I see it here. Use that image. Post that image and talk about exploit. Right? Post these tokens here. Talk about your tokens. Post them out there and talk about your map. It's not hard. It's not hard. It's just lazy. And I don't buy this whole we just don't get it. No. Or they want to be doing all these videos and stuff for it. This is more effort to set up a live stream and get a live stream session set up and have 4 people sit around. That takes more effort than just writing it down. And of course, we have this too. A full rulebook will not be available during the campaign. They will not post a rulebook. There will be detailed explanations of gameplay added throughout the campaign, so they're going to trickle information to you. Which, this is what bothers me, right? Is they're saying, like, we have this information. We're going to compile it into a PDF, but not at first. I don't like being revealed a game slowly at all. Because I feel like it's an assault of my time and stuff. Like, I'm not giving you any money until you explain what it is I'm giving you money for. I don't mind I give thousands of dollars away on Kickstarter all the time. But it's for something I know what I'm getting or know what your idea is. To kind of string people along and not give them as much information. Anytime you're willing as a company to accept money while purposely withholding information, again, I'm against it 100%. Never okay. Ever. It's not okay. When Oathsworn, I was talking to the devs of Oathsworn, and then we were talking about, hey, there's a lot of spoilers, right? This is a legacy game, right? You don't want to give away everything. And they actually asked me, like, should we post some miniatures? And I said, yes, absolutely. I would never give money away to something that I didn't know what it looked like or what I was getting into. I just don't. That's not how I operate. I don't gamble. And I'm not going to for a company either. And so they did the thing where there was a little spoiler tag. You could click it and it took you to another place where you saw all the renders. And I think that's great. That's what you need. Is a company willing to tell you what you're getting, even if it had some spoilers, if I choose to do it. But if Oathsworn, like, if that didn't happen, then you don't know if maybe you're just fighting a whole bunch of rats, and they're all rats. They're just different versions of rats. You don't know if there are or not. I could be telling you the truth. And that's fine if you don't mind the mystery, but that's your choice. They are still providing the information. You're choosing not to read all the information. And that's on you. And maybe that's okay. And every person gets to judge that, right? But for me, I'm going to read all the information I can at the place. I'm not going to go hunt for it. It's not my job to sell myself on it. It's your job to sell me. So I'm not going to go looking for it. But I'll read what you provide. So anyway, that just bothers me. And I think they may have changed that wording a little bit. Let me make double sure. Because they still have it here. Will robot be available? Full robot will not be available since the final artwork. Oh, this is what they had. Since the final artwork is just now being approved. I don't strip their artwork. I don't care if it's a text document from Notepad. Write your rules down somewhere. Take a picture of Post-it notes if that's what you got it on, and you can't be bothered to transfer to type it up. It doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to do anything. It just has to be there so we know that you did that. And actually, I don't require a rulebook. I know a lot of people do. I don't. I almost never read them. I barely have enough time to read the rulebooks for the games I own, not games I don't own and may not get. But I will open them up just to see how far along they are, right? I think that's helpful to know. How far along does it seem like you kind of have it? Like, is it just an info dump? Do you have it maybe a little bit organized? Maybe you have a little bit of art. It's very useful for a consumer, I feel, to know the professionalism of the company, the organization of the company, and how far in development you are based just on the rulebook. I think it's a very good metric. On miniatures, I look at chains, right? I look at basing. I look at stuff like that to see the inside of mouths, to see the kind of mindset and kind of detail that somebody's making in a miniature. Same thing with game development. I find a rule book to be good to look into there. And it's fine if it's rough. It's fine. It's just me knowing, okay, you have a little bit of a rough rule book. You may be a little bit earlier in development. And that's okay. That's fine. That's acceptable. It might not even be complete. Now, again, that's information that's useful to know. If you don't have the ending, then I know that, right? The Everrain eventually put up something, and again, it was just basic Word, and it was like a third of the rule book. It was like two parts of it, and then all the rest was missing, which told me they probably just whipped it up real quick and didn't have it before because there was no game. But they pretended there was a game. Anyway, I said the Everrain. I meant the Neverrain. I apologize. The Neverrain. Anyway, but that's good for the consumer to know. And some people are okay if you just say, we don't have a rule book. This is just in concept form right now. That's fine, but say it, right? As opposed to just, not saying it. Like, I just want to be informed, and then every consumer can make their own decision based off that information. So it looks like you have a awesome game here. It's a shame that you aren't showing that to any more than 2,000 of your 12,000 backers. Because for whatever reason, even though people are asking constantly, you're not going to actually post it. And in fact, you're even saying, no, you're not getting what you're asking for, which is over here. Okay. One more thing and then moving on. This $60 thing, no stretch goals, only if paid for $60. That is kind of BS, and that I'm still against. It's very manipulative. I wonder how people would react if come on, our lovely Come On, came out with their next campaign. And it was based off of maybe the video game Halo. And all they had was Halo up here and then Halo up here, a picture of the game board. They didn't have either of these. They had a picture of Master Chief here with some boxes you could buy. And then they had a little snippet about how it's action oriented, and a little snippet about how there's a map, and a little snippet about how there's a campaign, and a little snippet about the a player count. And then it went to, here's an advertisement for the latest Halo, and then nothing after that besides them asking for money. And then all of that, but they said, you know what, you can pay us $110 to get the Halo game, but that's all you get is the Halo game. It costs you $110. If you would like, however, you can prepay based off all this information we've told you, another $60, and you can now certainly get all the stretch goals we're adding. That's right, you have to back at max tier to get the stretch goals. How many people would be happy with that? I guarantee Come On would not get the leeway that Academy Games is getting, because people love to hate on Come On, and that's fine. They're a garbage company. They do a lot of bad things. They do some good things, but they do a lot of bad things too. Academy Games might make great games, but they do some bad things, and I think this is a bad thing. I'm generally not okay with putting it $60 more for stretch goals. For instance, it's interesting that you have to get the 5th and 6th player expansion for stretch goals. They claim it's because they're giving you 6 of everything, which I guess either you could give people extra, or you could give people, the 5 or 6 of, what I mean, it just seems very odd that it's $170 to get stretch goals for a game that you're not telling us about. That's still a little iffy to me. I'm not exactly okay with that. I think it's a little bit of marketing strategy there on my part. Anyway, that's it. I think it looks like a very cool game. I think they're either inept or lazy for not putting it on their Kickstarter, because we have told them and they just refuse to do it. And if the consumers are saying, hey, please do this, and then they're saying no, I guess that's on them. That's my stance on that. I don't want another Neverrain. I want you guys to have a good experience. I don't want to have to come. When is Stellaris delivering? When do they say? Let's see. April 2022. I don't want to come around here on April 2023 and make the video where I make fun of them just like I do the Neverrain because it's a year later and they're still working on the rulebook. I don't want that. I want that for you guys. I want companies to do the proper effort to make a game and then sell it through a campaign, not throw up a campaign and ask for money. Okay. Let's talk about Tiny Epic Dungeons. I know this is getting long. I apologize, but I think it's worth discussing these things. These are the most important discussions we can have in this industry, because at the end of the day, we are in control, and we might give up that control, right? But that's that. Which, by the way, that does right before I move on to this. I don't want to, because other companies are looking at this, right? And other companies saw that as long as they have a little bit of a following, they can throw up some video game IP, a little information, say we'll reveal the rest later, and get $2 million in backing. And I don't want that to be the norm. I don't want that to be the trend, and I don't want that to be set. They used the EB so people would back instead of withholding their information, or waiting. I right? That, I mean, that's manipulative, right? It's marketing. It's, hey, you have no information, but you back now, or you'll lose this thing. And so people are like, oh, crap, now I have to make the decision. Do I back something I don't know and pull out later? And it just, it moves the needle point from, I need information this to, I need the information by the end of the EB, or by the end of that. Like, when do we start getting information? And you know what? This video game IP stuff, Mythic Games has done it, right? I mean, it's getting big. It's getting big. I love video games. I'm fine with it. But anyway, we say what works and what doesn't work, and we set the trends. And it's unfortunate that they put people in, the consumers, into the position where you had to decide to get the EB and back something you normally wouldn't because they didn't give you any information, or not back it because they didn't give you any information, standing to your ground on that and losing the EB. It's unfortunate they did that. Really unfortunate that they put consumers in that spot. Tiny Epic Dungeons. Let's move on. I talked a little bit about this, but I hadn't actually, I had been told several different things by multiple people. They all said the same thing, so I felt pretty good about it. And then I decided to talk big point on this. I want to talk specific now. Okay. So big point, I was talking about how, like, in general, I want creators to create, and I want people to be able to say, I would rather this or I'd rather that. But I don't want people saying you should be ashamed of doing that and you shouldn't do that. For instance, there's a game called Kingdom Death Monster. You might have heard of it. Kingdom Death Monster has fully nude people. It has a lot of sexuality. It has a lot of violence, a lot of gore, a lot of taboo stuff going on there, right? Like cannibalism, all sorts of, like, adult things, right? And while that might not be for you, I am fine with an industry that has so broad and is doing so well that for the people who want that, they can get that. I think that's fantastic. I think that's great. Even if it's not for me. And I could even tell them, hey, I wish you wouldn't, because then I would have been interested, but I'm not interested. But I'm not okay with people saying you shouldn't do that. Or I can't believe you do that. You should be ashamed of yourself or anything like that, right? I think people should be able to just feedback in that way when it comes to creativity. Okay? With that, I read it. Here we go. I read it. A couple things here. This Elizabeth Hargrave, she is a designer of Wingspan, so she's within the industry, critiquing a competitor here, right? Because she makes a product, and then there's another company making a product, and she says, hey, let's talk about your product. It gets a little odd there, but I think she came from it not from a perspective on, I just don't like you because you're a competitor. I don't think she came from it from that. In fact, from what I read, she seems quite, exactly what I said. Like, hey, I would like to point out this thing. I think it should be different. Not, you shouldn't do this, or you can't, or you should be ashamed for selling something that shows, cleavage or a butt or something like that, right? There was none of that, at least from her. There was a lot of other responses. However, I can only read about half of them because BGG banned or removed everybody else that pretty much said anything against it, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I did want to say that, well, I think she uses some kind of exaggeration. It's just like, for instance, I'm an avid comic book reader. I have never seen a female in that pose or in that pose. I've seen these, yes, I have. But some of these are a little silly. I've never seen duck lips spread cheeks apart. I just haven't. That's getting, like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, now we're going to go a little too far, right? Like, okay, it's not that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. It's kind of like the instant, like, go to Hitler, like, argument thing. It's like, go over and be honest. Well, let's tone it back. It's not quite that bad. Anyway. Yeah, it is interesting. It says, it's a pose created by upper woman, all this kind of stuff, and it talks about it. And this is always kind of interesting. I think, talking about this specifically, but still within the industry, magazines. There is a magazine for everybody. You have Better Homes and Gardens. You got, car ones. You got hunting ones. You got fishing ones. You got video game ones. You got board game ones. You got, if you have a hobby, there's a magazine out there for you. There's also ones for, cosmopolitan for women. There's also ones for men, right? There's to be accepting. For an industry to be open to all, there needs to be a lot of variety, not everything going to everyone. And that's why I'm okay with KDM, because for every KDM, there's also, Chutes and Ladders for the super casual, or there's, the poker set for the guys who just want to play poker. And there's something for everybody, right? So I'm not on the mindset of your game needs to be for everyone and your game should target this market. I believe your game should target whatever market you want to market. Now, most want to market a wide audience. I imagine that. But we are in an industry that is mostly male. And so a lot of them will focus on males. And I can't blame a company for focusing on males. In an industry run by males. It's just not a run, but I don't know if they run or not. I mean, she's a designer and she's a woman, but, you know what I mean? It's like if 90% of the consumers that are here buying Kickstarter board games from our games are male, maybe we'll be more male oriented. Maybe we want to break into the female, but that's up to them. It's not necessarily an obligatory thing, right? So, that's my basic stance there. I think in industry, same with movies, right? There are movies for women, there are movies for men, there are movies for everybody. There's movies for kids, there's movies for old people. Maybe, I don't know if they watch movies. There's movies for everybody. Every industry is like that, right? There's cars for everybody. You want that kind of breadth, right? Where there's always options, but not every option has to meet every person. But she was respectful for it, and I think that's great. I do want to talk about this BGG crap though, because BGG's kind of crap, and I can say that and not get banned because I'm not on BGG. You can't ban me right now. You can't ban my video. Reading through this, I was trying to just read the discussion, and I failed to because anything that was dismissive, they removed. So if somebody says, this is a problem, I say, I don't think that's a problem. Does that mean that gets you, like you're moderated? That's it. Who moderates for dismissive? Why can't you be dismissive? What kind of snowflakes you got moderators over there? Like, what is up with that? And then not only that, right? But then I go to like another, I keep reading, right? And this one, like, this was disruptive because they're commenting on the thread moderation. Can you imagine if the cops acted like that? Can you imagine if police officers were like that? Hey, why'd you arrest that guy? What do you mean I'm arrested too? Like, you can say, hey, why'd you arrest that man? And the cop can decide to explain it or not. But he can't arrest you for commenting on the fact that he arrested him. Can you imagine if the world ran as crappy as BGG's moderation team ran? Like, that is insane. I didn't read everything, and I'm sure people got ridiculous. I guarantee there was some stuff that needs to be moderated here. Perhaps. Actually, I don't know. So I moderated a long time ago on GameSpot, GameSpot.com. And we could use our own purview for the most part, and you know, as long as we weren't like being disruptive to the flow of the comments, right? It's like the flow of comments is moderated, comment, moderated. So when somebody says, hey, I can't read the moderated, then they get moderated. It's like, what the heck? Anyway, I've seen like GIFs of people getting murdered. Like, people post some crap. I get that. Okay. Yeah, that stuff needs to go. Right? Like, that's not okay. But I don't know. It just seems so weird that somebody can't be dismissive. I don't even know what disruptive means. I'm assuming they weren't just talking about their favorite pet seahorse named Philip, right? Like, that's just random disrupting, right? I'm assuming they're talking on point. And even if so, why can't a thread, like, why can't a community go off? I have a Discord, and it has a channel called Board Games Only. About 60% of the time, it's about board games. The other 40% of the time, people are talking about whatever they want to talk about. But why can't people talk about what they want to talk about? So what if you're disruptive? If people don't want to talk about it, they just won't comment on the guy. What does it matter? That sort of heavy-headed censorship and moderation is just sad. Especially from the biggest place for board games on online like this. It's really rather pathetic, and I don't stand for it. I am standing against that. That is not okay. You can't even, if you're doing 30 odd bans and 3 pages, like if you're doing 10 moderations a page, and somebody says, whoa, there's a lot there, like, you shouldn't be moderating that. And if they're critical of you doing that, then you definitely shouldn't. But not that we can see it. I can't see what they removed. There is reports, I've been told, of them IP banning, and I've not looked at all of her comments. Maybe she gets snarky at the end. Who knows? But from what I read, she seemed quite respectful, and I really liked that. Look at this! What? People were obviously having a conversation. What's it to you if they had a conversation here or not? Why can't there be moderation? Why can't they have a conversation in your forums? What the heck? Oh my gosh, it's terrible. And? So what if he realizes a seahorse named Philip? People will ignore him or tell him to shut up. Why do you moderate it? Off topic again. Oh man, it's bad. I cannot believe that. That is sad. That's some sad moderation there. I can tell you one thing is, if I was moderating here and we had a moderator forum like we did on GameSpot, I would have been calling them out. I'm like, hey, dudes, what the heck? You're giving me a bad name. Knock it off. Anyway, so BGG, they like to censor, apparently, people having conversations, which then makes the whole conversation hard to read. I comment below if you disagree with me. That's fine. I'm not gonna remove every post that disagrees with me. It's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to mention something else. I've had people say, hey, I know this is off topic, but I just wanted to say it's off topic. It's not about this video, but I'll allow it. I love it. Anyway. So yeah, I am, again, I was totally fine with what they had before. I had no issue with it. They can go after whatever market they wish to. I think they wanted to go after a more family-friendly market. I think it makes sense, and I think that's okay. That being said, it's like, okay, so the box art's there, but she still has like a full boobage hanging out there. Like, I don't think they changed the miniatures at all. I don't know. Wait, is Rogue wearing a shirt? Let's check. Actually, I didn't even check. Yeah, see, I mean, she's still like super duper double D cleavage, but I guess the miniatures. Oh, no, gave her a shirt. Oh, they didn't give her a shirt there. Look at that. Whatever. Anyway, but I wanted to clarify. She was respectful, at least from what I read, at least from her first thing. She was just saying, hey, so just notice this. This is how I feel about it. Totally fine to do. A little weird to do it to a competitor. It's a little, you gotta kind of like walk that line and just make sure that you're coming at it from a good headspace yourself. I think we all kind of have to do that, especially if you're within any industry. I do too, and so I get that. But this whole BGG crap is a load of crap, and I'm not okay with it. I'm okay if people say mean things. I'm okay if people have bad attitudes. I'm okay if people have terrible ideas. It's theirs to have. If they want to go post it on the internet for people to make fun of them for it, that's fine too. It's not on me to do that. Like I said, like I've seen it. Sadly, it bothered me for a while, but I've seen people get like murdered. Okay, like people just bomb with terrible gifs and videos. I get that. I get the whole as a moderator. I get it. The whole I'm going to be banned, so I may as well post a whole bunch of pornography. Like people are stupid. Okay, but if somebody's being dismissive, well, I'm dismissive of that. I think that's dismissive. Come ban me. Come moderate this video. All right. Anyway, guys, I seriously mean it when I say that I have a great time talking to you guys. That this is what the channel is about, in my mind, is making sure that we have the right discussions as consumers and as an industry so that we keep growing forward. Whether that means being more acceptable to other things, whether that means being able to agree or disagree with things, or talk about hard things. We should be able to, especially with how she wrote this post, we should be able to have this conversation and just have the conversation. There'll be some people that'll get all rowdy or whatever, but we need to be able to talk about this stuff. So we can say yay or nay, or are we for it or are we against it, right? We need to be able to talk about how we feel about people who launch day one with no information, but say we'll get it to you eventually. Are we okay with that? All right. This one says yes. In fact, this one says yes too. Maybe not quite as yes, but they didn't have an IP going for them. So again, if this had been Halo, I guarantee it would have been 2 million. So, we just got to talk about it. And sometimes we're just like, yeah, we shouldn't give into the hype of IP, but we do. And that's fine too. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, I appreciate it. If you do appreciate this level of honesty, this level of risk-taking I take, because trust me, there are going to be people that don't like me from this. There are going to be people who unsubscribe. I've had actually even a few patrons leave. It might have been for this, it might have not been. Some people come, some people go. And that's fine. I get it. And people can do what they want. But I will keep giving you my opinion, and it'll be my honest opinion. And it's okay if I'm wrong too. Sometimes I'll have to correct it or change it. I wanted to over the BGG thing anyway, because once I read her post, I saw how respectful she was for it. So it wasn't really her that was the one that was like, you should be ashamed of this or anything like this. So yeah, anyway, I'm okay with it. I hope you are too. I hope you have a great rest of your day too. I really do. I always say that, but I do. So I will talk to you guys again next time very soon with some more board game stuff, more typical unboxing, reviewing stuff like that. Looking forward to it. All right. See you guys. Bye.